Hello there, and welcome to this episode of Distraction. This is episode 18. Thank you for coming back. This is the show where I distract you, the things that have been distracting me in and out of quarantine. It's by Prandycast. I feel like I should mention that because you can listen to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Anywhere you get your regular podcasting, just search Prandycast and you'll find Distraction. This week's episode is going to be about British YouTube and why it's the best YouTube. And if I didn't say it in the title, I do also mean Irish YouTube, but that's probably not as catchy, but there are quite a few Irish YouTubers I'm going to talk about. I actually tried to record this once before, but I was like all bunged up and it just sounded disgusting, so I'm doing it all again. That's why it's a bit late this week. So the main line that I'm trying to distinguish, so I'm just literally going to jump straight in. The main line I'm trying to distinguish here is, I think that British and Irish YouTube is the best YouTube in the world. By this, I've never really watched European or Asian or African YouTube, so I can't really say that. My main argument here is it's actually better than American YouTube. And the YouTubers I'm talking about, obviously there are a lot of YouTubers like Mr. Beast, who I think is a very, very good YouTuber. I love him. There's David Dobrik, Casey Neistat. I actually watch all these YouTubers and I do think that they make good content. So let's talk about. I'm just going to throw some American YouTubers out there that I'm sort of basing this evaluation off. So we're going to go the Vlog Squad, David Dobrik. We're going to go Mr. Beast. We're going to go Casey Neistat. We're going to go Shane Dawson, Jeffree Star. We're going to go Rooster Teeth. All people like that. I've tried to pick people across the whole platform of YouTube. Philip DeFranco. Because I have basically the rest of this podcast. Pardon me. After that, I have sorry, I'm all flustered. So the rest of this podcast, after that, I'm going to argue the base point of why British and Irish YouTube is the best compared to American. I'm then going to evidence it by going through all my favourite YouTubers through categories of entertainment, comedy, commentary channels, music, and to show that in every aspect of the YouTube platform, America fails. And the underlying factors, I think, is that I think British YouTubers, and this also could be a cultural difference, but I actually think British YouTubers, they're a bit more authentic, they're more humble, I think they're more relatable people. When you look at people like Casey Neistat, I do like him. When you look at Logan Paul I think has a good podcast, and I think that he is actually coming along. Jake Paul I hate with a dying passion, and even Trisha Paytas, David Dobrik, all these people, I just don't feel like they're that relatable. I feel like they're too far gone. And maybe it's the LA lifestyle, the New York lifestyle, and also you have to put in the idea that some of these people have gotten very, very famous overnight. The fact that these people have probably been bombarded with the media and with fans for years, so maybe they are a bit more jarred and a bit more maybe a bit more taken aback. But there's just something about them that I don't feel is that authentic, and there's something about David Dobrik. I absolutely love his vlogs and I do think they're really funny, but maybe it's my mistake to make. But I recently started listening to his podcast. I think it's well known to my friends I don't really like Jason in the vlogs. I think he's a bit of an arsehole. And I know there's some stuff come out about racism between Jason and David and some of the vlogs. I'm not going to comment on that, but I'm just saying from listening to more of the podcasts in general, getting to and hearing people in the Vlog Squad, I do love quite a lot of them, but they just seem... It's strange. I don't really know how to put it into words. And also when I look at it, when you really sit back and look at it, it's nice that he buys his friends cars. But then when you look towards some more British YouTubers who are absolutely massive, obviously we're going to talk about their Sidemen, KSI, and even smaller ones, and they just seem to do a lot more for their community than these YouTubers do. I don't know. I'm going to jump straight into it, which is ironically something that Philip Franco says. But I think I'm going to start off with, I have sat for hours and hours and watched things like David Dobrik vlogs, but when you throw entertainers like the Sidemen in there, you cannot... I don't think they can compete. And I know that arguably David Dobrik is the biggest YouTuber in the world, and he's now actually trying to cross into more traditional media, but I do think the Sidemen have got him in the bag. And I know it's funny because some of the Sidemen love David Dobrik and they chat about him and they say that their content couldn't really compete with his, but I just think the content that the Sidemen make, maybe it's more my maybe it's more my humour, maybe it's more my level, it's more of a cultural difference, but I'm going to go through it. So obviously you have like Ethan, Vic, Toby, Josh, Harry, Simon and JJ. And these people, and I know people in the vlog squad also do other things apart from their vlogs. Like Scotty does have his own merch business. He's just brought a CBD range. Zane and Heath are bringing out like their own coffee range. But when you look at like the Sidemen, you have Vic, who is he's a COD partner, Ubisoft partner, as is Josh, and he's just won 20 grand on Warzone Wednesday, which is a Warzone Call of Duty competition. So like he like skilled. You have Ethan, who's a brand ambassador with like Gymshark, and he's very very into fitness, and he posts a lot about that sort of stuff. You have Harry with Football Town, a complete side business, which is basically a little stall, not a stall, it's a little shop, entertainment centre in the O2 Arena, where before COVID you could go and play football and do trick shots and things like that. Simon has his M7 Foundation, which is a charity that sends school kids on field trips, school trips when they couldn't do it before. And then you have JJ, who's arguably the most successful British YouTuber, maybe one of all time. Him and Logan Paul had like the biggest amateur fight ever. He released a UK #2 album, which is actually quite good if you haven't listened to it. Pardon me, whenever I start podcasting, my chest just goes. And yeah, like the general entertainment videos they do, like old game shows and real life Tinder, things like that. So maybe it is more of a cultural thing. I've watched those TV shows growing up, and to see personalities that I really like doing them, maybe that's why I like the video so much. But then they have quite original content, like $100 versus $10,000 holidays, hide and seeks in some absolutely amazing places. And obviously this is not original, but I hadn't seen it before. Then they have like even copied content like calorie challenge videos, mean tweets, things like that. And even though it's not the most original content, which you could argue that maybe David Dobrik, Casey Neistat especially, is very original content, it's just not as entertaining. There's something about the Sidemen and the More Sidemen channel that they really hit the nail on the head. And it's funny because I never watched them for years because I thought they were quite FIFA, a bit lad, like that sort of YouTube side. But when you look at it, they're not. Like the range of fans that they have for these videos is incredible. And I want to point out that, like, so I googled like the top 250 channels in the UK, and out of the top 15, most of them were like the Ed Sheeran page, the One Direction page, the BBC, the Sky pages, Mr. Bean, then kids channels, because we all know how kids use YouTube. Like, they'll just watch hours and hours of content, don't really take it in, it's probably just on in the background, so those channels are at the top. But then after that, it's like JJ, then it's Sidemen, then it's More Sidemen, then it's like Rotashaw. So they are like the biggest YouTubers in the UK. And I think they are the driving force of, not even of creativity, but I think they're the driving force of maybe pushing British YouTube forward. Obviously there is other YouTube, maybe like Alfie Days, Joe Sugg and Zoella, who are more pushing it into the mainstream media. But the Sidemen are pushing it from a different angle, pushing it in all areas of boxing, of music, of Josh and Toby both have their own fashion labels. One's called Ill Vision, one's called Zirk London. So it's just things like that, to be honest. Yeah, and I even return to Shane Dawson, Jeffree Star. We all know the drama that's been around them recently. I've been watching every video to keep up, and they seem like terrible humans. It's funny how many I've been watching a lot of American and a lot of English YouTubes over the years, and it's funny how many more American ones I no longer watch because I don't agree with them. I don't agree with their politics. I don't agree with how they've handled things, or they're just an arsehole of a person. And I'm gonna say 9 out of 10 have been American. I know this is like a very, very heavy hammer to swing, but I thought it was a really interesting subject. And also to throw on that, there are a few different groups in the UK, so you can look at like the Sidemen group. I'd also fish like Calfreezy, Callux, Joe Weller, Anison Gibb, Niko Omolano, who are all actually also fantastic YouTubers. Niko especially, like he snuck into like a KSI fight, he set up a 5-star restaurant on the tube, he trolls racists. Like they're all fantastic YouTubers and they're all that sort of group. There's also a few other people I want to point out that I think are pushing the way forward in creativity in YouTube, and that's the Zac and Jay show. And they're similar to Niko, they are tricksters, they sneak around, they get into award shows on a red carpet, they got a random person into Fashion Week one year in London, and they try to test funny rules and regulations. One of their videos was there was a rule that pets were allowed in some shops and restaurants, so they took alpacas and claimed that they were their pets, and it was funny seeing them going into all these shops. And most of these channels, like, and obviously Sidemen are almost at 10 million, JJ's 20 million, but Zac and Jay show 500k, Niko Omolano like just over a mil. Bambino Becky, she's on about 300k, and she is an absolutely class YouTuber. She's Welsh, and she does a show called Strong Ones, which is a parody of Hot Ones, which is just absolutely fantastic. If I could recommend a few from this first category, it would definitely be Bambino Becky and the Zac and Jay show. And there's a few other entertainment YouTubers I'd throw in there that I think are really like have paved the way forward and are doing it as well. So one original YouTuber is Ashens. He's done a lot of reviews. He reviews like pound shop stuff. He reviews funny food items from 30 years ago. He's a very original YouTuber. He's been on the platform for absolutely years, even though he's probably only got just over 1 million subscribers. But it's that sort of entertainment. And I do have to point out as well that maybe I don't have a depth of knowledge of American YouTube like I do British, because I've been watching British YouTube for probably over 10 years now. Because like I started on Tomska and Ashens really, and I'll move on to that. Oh, sorry, and the last entertainment YouTuber I want to talk about was Adam B. He's only got about 1 million subscribers. My friend told me about him and coined him the Derry David Dobrik, which again I think is because he just maybe more family friendly, child targeted content. Maybe challenge videos. He does a content where he give like money away in a ice cream van, and it's sort of thing that you'd see David Dobrik do, but he does it at a working class level, so to speak, where it's in like working class communities, or it's not in LA, or basically it's like it's giving back to your local community. It's giving back straight to the fans. Where when you see David Dobrik buy his friends' cars, it's really cool to see. But he's buying millionaire friends' cars. I know maybe they don't have millions of dollars, but they're fucking well off. Which is, why sometimes I'm like, I'm not sure how much, when I really delve into it, how much fulfillment are you really getting from it. But yeah, that was like more the entertainment portion. Comedy, British and American comedy is very subjective, and I know that this could be a whole video by itself, and there's a lot of, I'm not saying like I hate every American YouTuber, because there's a lot of really funny American YouTubers who I watch, who actually live in the UK, who live in America. It can all be part of like, the same friendship groups and same social circles, which there are a lot of funny American YouTubers. But I don't think they're as funny as British ones, to throw the glove out there. And I'm talking about people like Tomska, Jack and Dean. These are one very particular group of people partnered with like Dodie and Hazel, who I'll talk about later. And this is a very vlog maybe centered part of YouTube. He's a real, like Tomska especially, is a real OG. And if you don't know Tomska, he'll know him from Astaf movie. You'll all have seen Astaf movie. Ed's World. He didn't create Ed's World, but he was a partner of it, and he was Ed's World. What's the word? Legacy. After the main guy Ed died, and just the skits and like him and Jack and Dean, when like the skits that those people produce, the same with Sammy Paul, and I say a lot. Apologise for that. What's the other guy called? He's very, 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 very funny. Can't remember, but it'll come back to me. Basically, that whole friendship circle do very, very funny skits, and it's very my type of humour. If anything, that's actually moulded my humour as I've grown up, so maybe that is why I have a soft spot for them. But there's other comedians as well. There's Stephan Tries. I found him through the Sidemen. Hilarious. Absolutely fucking hilarious. There's not many like him. Maybe he is a bit of a shock teenage boy type of humour, but you can't deny his comedic talent is off the charts. Chi with a C, her parodies of like, she's done a recent one on Outnumbered. She's done parodies of all sorts of things, and like the act that she puts on, or maybe it's her, it's just very, very, very funny. And I'm going to throw in this here compared to Rooster Teeth, because I was actually going to make a whole podcast about Rooster Teeth. So another part of comedy, another area of British YouTube is Yogscast. A lot of people know Yogscast is Lewis and Simon, Hatfilms, that sort of thing. I know there's been a bit of controversy around them recently, but when I compared them to Rooster Teeth, which is ironic because they're now actually, Hatfilms do a lot with Rooster Teeth. Rooster Teeth recently has died. Many of the founding members have left, whether that was their own choice, or if they've actually been forced to leave. They've had disagreements when they've been overworking their animation department. Lots of people have come out and said it's a terrible company to work for. They've axed off channels like Sugar Pine 7, members of Funhouse, because they're not making enough money. It used to be good content for the people and made by like gamers and the part of the community, but now it is just a business, and I'm not going to get too far into it. But I really just think Rooster Teeth has died off. And again, Yogscast has lost some of its main audience. But when I've gone back and watched videos, and I still keep up with Hatfilms, and I've met all of Hatfilms, and they were absolutely amazing people. I feel like their content still stands up. They're still as funny as ever. They're still as relatable. They're very humble people. I just feel like, especially in Rooster Teeth, there is that arrogance of the people at the top, like Gavin Free. I'm not saying he's arrogant, but he is so partnered with Google and YouTube, and he's making so much Wonga on the side with like the slow-mo guys. He's so PC. It's not funny anymore. He was always PC, but he could always joke around. But like the last times I was really watching their content, and I've gone back and seen, there's just something about it, man. They all seem a bit too far up their own arse. And like when I watched podcasts with them, I used to think it was part of the charm when they'd be like, "Oh, like the fans are idiots, the fans are this." And I'm like, yeah, you have to admit that many people on the internet are idiots. Many of them are like 12-year-olds, but it was just, I don't know. They came across as arrogant to me. And I don't think Yogscast ever really have. And I think they've always been a good channel, and that's like a direct correlation, but bit between maybe the Sidemen, maybe the Vlog Squad, or maybe Phase, things like that. Also with the Sidemen, you can watch a video, you know what you're going to see, you're going to get entertained by this set of people. When you watch people like Phase, you don't know who the fuck's going to be in their videos. But there, maybe that's a bit of a direct correlation. But yeah, like, that's just another aspect why I think British and Irish YouTube trumps American, is in the comedy. So next, something I haven't really seen in America, unless maybe you count Keemstar and Philip DeFranco, and they're more news shows. But I'm talking about commentary channels, and I think British YouTube and Irish YouTube it is rich with commentary channels and fantastic personalities, and their comedic value as well is unmatched. Philip DeFranco, I actually really liked for a time, because I thought he was a good news reader, he was a good correspondent, but then someone told me I don't know if this is accurate, but someone told me he's very, very well off, and he still has a Patreon and takes people's money when realistically he maybe shouldn't. I don't know how true that is, and they also just said like some other things about him which I didn't really like, but I don't know how accurate that is. But when you look at commentary channels over here, you have JAAAckmate, James Marriott, imalexx, Memulous, WillNE. These are all obviously very part of the same friendship circle, along with Truegeordie, who I know does a lot of podcasts, and podcasts could be its own category, because you have the What's Good podcast. Oh, Jesus Christ, if anyone just heard that massive bang outside, I shit myself. You have like the What's Good podcast, and you have that with like Simon and Randolph. You have JAAAckmate's podcast. You have Joe Weller's podcast. Like, they're all absolutely fantastic, and I think the Truegeordie podcast is the best of them all. But you can see that they're all commentary channels. They all pick videos and people and situations and commentate over them, not only poking fun at them, but also giving you the information, which is something I just haven't seen that many American YouTubers do very well. And also, speaking of Truegeordie, I think he probably had maybe the worst cancelling of anyone recently, barring Jake Paul or Shane Dawson at the minute. He had the best comeback. He had the best apology I think I've ever seen. He really took it in his stride. He said what he'd done wrong. He said how he's going to change. He said why maybe this happened, why you shouldn't judge him for it. And I respect Truegeordie more than I think I've ever respected any other YouTuber. Like, genuinely. And also, I want to throw under there, maybe more of a drama channel rather than a commentary channel. That's Angleika Ogles. I really wanted to get a full wide scenario of British and Irish YouTube. And Angleika Ogles is a drama channel, and she specialises more in the beauty community, but also just like across the board. She also talks about David Dobrik outrage with racism, and I watch almost every one of her videos, and she talks a lot about, at the minute, like Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson. And again, she gives information. She collects the information for you and gives you it. She gives you her opinion, but she also gives you it objectively and allows you sorry for the voice crack, and allows you to form your own opinion sort of thing, and I just really respect for it. I think she's a very, very good YouTuber, and I'm not even sure she's on 1 million subscribers. She probably isn't. And I know that she's friends with like Mia, who is WillNE's girlfriend. She's friends with Talia, Ellen and Neil, like all these fantastic YouTubers. And yeah, like I suppose when I think of female British YouTubers, I think of like Hazel Hayes, Dodie, Angleika. You think of like Talia Marr, who maybe does more singing and like Twitch as well. G Nelly, Bambino, Becky, Chi with a C, all these like absolutely, and I'm sure there's so many more. Lots of my friends, well, one or two of my friends in Newcastle, when I watch YouTube with them, they watch a lot of more female focused YouTube, and I always like what they show me. And again, is lots of female American YouTubers who I'm sure are lovely, and my friend has actually shown me a few who I actually quite like. But when you say female YouTuber to me, when I think British, I think really like empowering. I think really talented female YouTubers, and when I think in America, I think Trisha Paytas. I think who's the other one? Tana Mongoose. Like that's sort of the level of female American YouTubers that I really know, and that might be absolutely unfair. But like you just see the difference, and that's where again I think British YouTube, British and Irish YouTube trumps lol American. The next category, you know what, I've talked about her a few times, Hazel Hayes, who's not only a fantastic YouTuber, filmmaker, and has now wrote a book, and I think she has one of the best vlog series on YouTube, and I've watched a lot of vloggers. I'm a point towards maybe Casey Neistat, Roman Atwood, and I used to watch all of them. I think I watched Casey Neistat and Roman Atwood every single day for like 2 years. And I've watched every single one of David Dobrik's vlogs. And again, I think Casey Neistat's unmatched against his filmmaking ability within the vlogs. I think Roman Atwood is unmatched with doesn't he have like, Casey Neistat might have beat him, but he had like hundreds and hundreds of vlogs in a row, all with his family, all with like Smile More, and they were the most maybe uplifting things I've ever seen. But for talking a genuine, uplifting, true to life vlog series that I think hits every nail on the head. It makes you happy, it makes you sad, it shows you life struggles, and it also teaches you a lesson or two. I'm going to point towards Hazel Hayes and her series Time of the Month, which again, I actually met Hazel and Dodie in London with two of my friends. And one of my friends, Ashling, who'd been watching them way, way longer than me, she actually introduced me to both of them. And she introduced me to Dodie, and I became a massive fan of her. Then when we met them, I was like, oh, that Hazel seems pretty cool as well. And like she showed me her as well. And that's when I found Time of the Month. And like, yeah, I think that's the best vlog series on YouTube. Like, genuinely, I've never felt more connected, I don't know, entertained. I watch it about once a year, like, she did 22 episodes, and I watch every single one. So good, but this is actually under this filmmaking category. I think there's a lot of fantastic, like, I'd put Casey Neistat under the vlog/filmmaking category, and I'd put Hazel Hayes there. People like Bertie Gilbert, Sammy Paul, Zach Lower. I don't know if he has YouTube. I think he's friends with Alfie Days, but has an amazing Instagram account. And all these people, like photographers, filmmakers, even Tomska makes like short films and skits, and Jack Howard as well. He's a filmmaker, not just like comedy skits. I think that I know there is a few people in America, maybe like Tim H. You have, well, that's awkward. Do I know any American foodie filmmaker podcasts? Again, there's a lot of American podcasters who I watch who have a lot to do with about cameras and film photography, especially, who are very good. But I think the short films I've enjoyed most on YouTube have come out of British and especially Irish YouTube. So yeah, like, again, I just think they're unprecedented. If anything, by the way, the people, this might sound like a big ramble, they are all going to be linked a lot below. This is very late in the podcast to say this, but I'm more trying to draw you towards watching some maybe British YouTubers. Because I think if you're going to sit and watch somebody's content, I think these are the people's content that you should be watching. So this is one big recommendations video. Next, I'm going to talk about music. Again, I know that like Jake Paul and Logan Paul have made music online. I'm sure there's other American YouTubers who have made music. Again, this may be completely biased because I don't know that many American YouTubers off the top of my head, but I can tell you off the top of my head, music YouTubers, again, KSI has a number 2 in the official UK Billboard album, Dissimulation, and it's a really, really good album. A few of his singles before have been good, but I especially enjoyed this album. As someone getting more into hip hop and that sort of genre, it was actually absolutely fantastic. My other, possibly 1 out of 3 favourite artist ever is Dodie. Again, shown to me by my friend Ashling in foundation year, and I think her music not only is their unmatched talent in the lyrics, the songs themselves are just absolutely beautifully sung, wrote, performed, and I think the lyrics are unprecedented, and the stories that they tell is absolutely amazing. I don't know how much he's on YouTube, but you have like Jamie or Young Gravy, as my friend Matthew calls him. Also, fantastic artist. Again, more close. I'm sort of jumping back and forth. Similar to Dodie, you have Tom Rosenthal. I only found him a few years ago, but I absolutely love the songs he makes. Sometimes they're quite comedic, sometimes they're quite deep. Lots of them are about mental health, similar to Dodie. I could talk to Dodie for a whole podcast, which is why I try to sort of cut myself a little bit short. But they're absolutely fantastic musicians. Then you have people like Orla Garland, who again is a friend of Dodie. She's an Irish singer, and she's a bit more up and coming. She went on tour with Dodie. I'm not sure if she was in her band or not, but again, makes really, really good music. Actually, saying that, Tessa Violet is American and is very good friends with Dodie and also makes very good music, so I'm going to throw that in there to maybe balance it out. Then you have OGs like Bri, who I used to watch when I was in school, never really realised he was a big YouTuber. Also an Irish oldie but goldie. And then you have newer people that I found, like Talia Marr, you probably know from going out with Mini Minter from the Sidemen, but she makes fantastic music. She has a really, really good voice, and I actually watch her most on Twitch. This obviously is meant to be a YouTube podcast, but I actually watch many of the Sidemen and their girlfriends and friends on Twitch, and Talia, I would actually argue, is the best Twitch streamer out of all of them. I've definitely watched hers the most, and just how she carries a stream is better than the rest, I would say. But yeah, to give, if anyone did get to this part of the podcast, thank you so much. And I would argue that if I had to recommend you some YouTubers to listen to watch, sorry, I'd have to say, obviously, yeah, go and check out the Sidemen and shit, but everyone knows who they are. So I'd say go and check out Zac and Jay show, Bambino Becky, Tomska, WillNE, Hazel Hayes. Yeah, I think that's it. I think they're my top recommendations. And also other people who are famous but I haven't actually watched that much. You have Morgs, Pro Syndicate, Alfie Days, Joe Sugg, Casper Lee, Thatcher Joe, Emily Tube, Dan TDM. Massive, massive creators who also are pushing the platform forward, especially for British YouTube. But I haven't watched them that much. I didn't really want to comment on their content, but I'm sure they're all absolutely fantastic, and I have lots of friends that watch lots of them, though many of you will know my feelings towards people like Alfie Days. But yeah, that was my argument for the British and Irish YouTube community being 10 times better, and always will be better than the American community. Sorry if that was really long-winded, just a whole load of shit thrown at you, but I hope you find some new people to watch, some new people to support. I've been Zac, this is Prandycast, an episode of Distraction. I am available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcast, really. I'm at GoPrandle on Instagram or at GoPrandle on Film. I'm also on Letterboxd. All that will be down low in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Please come back next week. Thank you.